Gerald Lucas here with another installment of Ask Gerald, where you get your real estate questions answered. Today's question comes from Veronica, and Veronica writes from Wayne, New Jersey. And Veronica writes, our daughter wants to buy a home, but she does not qualify for a traditional mortgage. Do you think she should try to get a non-conforming mortgage? Well, that's a good question, Veronica. First, let's define what a non-conforming mortgage is, which is basically just a mortgage that doesn't meet the federal requirements for the loan to be sold to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. But non-conforming mortgages are a great idea for many property owners, but they carry risks, and they often require you to pay higher interest rates and a larger down payment. So let's look at some scenarios where it would make sense to try to get a non-conforming mortgage versus not. In your daughter's case, I think it probably would make sense because you already said she doesn't qualify for a conforming mortgage, so she should certainly look into getting a non-conforming mortgage. But here's some other scenarios where it would make sense to look at a non-conforming mortgage. And the first is if you're buying a more expensive house, home, or property. So conforming mortgages have a dollar limit. So if you're buying a property that's more expensive than that, then you won't qualify for a conforming mortgage. So if you're buying a more expensive, like a luxury home, for example, you may have to get what's called a jumbo mortgage or a jumbo loan, which is non-conforming. So a more expensive home, you should consider a non-conforming mortgage. Second scenario where you want to consider a non-conforming mortgage is if you are self-employed, if you have alternative income. So maybe a business owner that writes off lots of expenses, and as a result, but you may make a lot of money, but you may not qualify for a conforming mortgage. That's another scenario. Consider a non-conforming mortgage. The third scenario where it makes sense to consider a non-conforming mortgage loan is if you've got a unique financial situation. So maybe your credit score took a hit recently, but you've got considerable assets or cash reserves, and a non-traditional lender will look at those things and you may qualify for a non-conforming mortgage in that scenario. Now, when it wouldn't make sense to consider a non-conforming mortgage is if you can qualify for a conforming mortgage. So if you've got a standard W-2 job, strong credit score, etc., then you should just get a conforming mortgage because normally the the interest rate's going to be lower, the terms are going to be better. However, as far as non-conforming mortgages go, there's no standards. So every lender will look at the situation differently, so you should shop around. Go to different banks and credit unions and see what's out there. So if you're looking for a non-traditional, non-conforming mortgage, also read the fine print and be wary of, strange repayment schedules, as well as balloon payments. So thanks for your question, Veronica. For more real estate tips and information, visit my blog at geraldlucas.com. I'm Gerald Lucas, and I'll see you again soon.